This is my summer car in 2016, and this is my summer car in 2024. Today we're going to be looking at how much my summer car has changed since the day that it was released 7 years ago. My summer car was first released to the public on October 24th, 2016. 7 years later, the game is still in active development, receiving updates every couple of months. Today, I'm going to be playing the first ever version of the game that was released to the public to see exactly how much has changed since now and then, not just in the way that the game looks, but also in the way that the game plays. We start off with the game's menu, which has changed a lot since the old version. The menu contains the same features though, which are to continue, start a new game, import music, etc. We'll be starting off by making a new game not in permadeath mode, as it was much easier to die in the older version of the game. Once we are inside the game, we immediately notice things like the UI being white and having a different font, as well as stress not being a thing in this version of the game. The spawn location is inside the player's kitchen instead of inside the player's room. There are some differences in the player's house, such as the posters. The shop catalog is inside the player's room instead of in the garage. There isn't a bush in front of the house, and there is no back patio / porch area. We start off with a case of beer and 1 pack of sausages, which is less than in the modern version where we have a macaron box, pizza, milk, and sausages. The car itself is the same bare shell with all the body and engine parts inside the garage, and in the older version the tires are present in the garage from the beginning, and we don't have to travel to the abandoned mansion to obtain them. We also have many spray cans in the garage as well. The van and the sewage truck are at the house, as Uncle does not exist in the older version of the game. Also, the only way to clean yourself is in the sauna, and I think that's pretty funny. The car building process is pretty much the same, the only differences being that there is no need to wire the car, time the engine, and other small things like that. Some bolts are also different sizes, which doesn't really make too much of a difference. Car parts also really did not have wear, meaning that they lasted forever with no need to buy new ones. That's really all that changed in the car building process. The game features the same main jobs, such as driving Yoke home, pumping sewage, and chopping firewood. Selling Kiryu to Yoke was also not a thing yet, but sugar and yeast were still able to be bought, hinting at its imminent release. There is no such thing as a venti dealer's shack, so you couldn't make money by gambling. Finishing first in the Suvi Sprint, or Rally, did give you money in this version. Other small things didn't exist yet, such as giving food to grandma, driving her to church, the hay bale job, and helping Yoke move. Hauling wrecked cars to Fleetari also didn't exist yet, as it would be added a month after the game's initial release. As for the game's graphics, they seem to have more color than the modern version of the game. The bloom effect is much stronger though, as turning the high beams on while driving on the dirt road during daytime makes the roads as white as snow. The reflections of surfaces like the metal of the car are also much brighter and higher quality, which I think looks better. It might have been removed for performance reasons. Some of the game's textures are different as well, as the dirt road texture seems more white and washed out than the modern version of the game. Tamo's glasses are also much shinier, which I think is cool. As previously mentioned, the Gifu and the van are present when we first start the game due to Uncle's absence. Obviously, the Satsuma is present from the start as well. The tractor is also here, as well as the boat and the Ferndale. The Jonas has not been added yet though, meaning that there would be no moped antics for a while. The Rusko also didn't exist, as Venti's shack didn't exist yet either. There is also no helmet, as driving without a windshield doesn't have the consequence of getting stung by a bee or making you more vulnerable to dying in an accident. The green car guy and the bus were also not in the game yet, as it would be added in a later update. This meant that if you ran out of fuel and your car broke down in the middle of nowhere, you were kind of screwed. One thing I did notice is that the sound effects, such as opening the car doors, sound much higher quality and less muffled in the older version of the game than in the newer version of the game, which I'm a bit confused by. Tamo's voice is also much more echoey than in the modern version, which I'm glad they fixed.
Hyvää päivää ja tervetuloa Teimon kauppaan.
The cars all sound the same, but I did notice that the Gifu has a sort of whine in the gearbox at high revs. And the Satsuma doesn't have the gearbox whine that it has in the modern version. The overall ambience sounds the same, with the same bird sounds being used since as far back as build 171. The game's map is arguably the biggest thing that has changed. There are many different things, such as the dance pavilion, the sewage treatment plant, the expanded river and bridge near Lope, the railroad tracks, and overall just more details and little things to make the game feel much more lively and realistic. I'll show a slideshow of the biggest changes to the map. The older version also lacks many characters such as Grandma, Uncle, Venti, and Yanni. Susuke is also absent, meaning that you do not become a father in the end. Yoke also lacked a story. After taking him home 5 times, he doesn't reveal that he has a suitcase. He just keeps continuing to call you saying that he needs to be taken home from the pub. These characters and their backstories are huge to the game's lore, and without them the game lacks a sort of story element and just feels more like a survival simulator and less of a life simulator. The rally is still a big part of the game. It is the ultimate goal that your player works to accomplish. The rally in the modern version of the game features much more decoration, such as NPC rally cars, sponsors, and spectators who you can run over. Overall, the rally in the modern version of the game just feels more like a big event instead of just an average Tuesday. There is also no parts seller at Parc Ferme in the rally, which makes sense because car parts had nowhere in the older version. The rally was only one day though, as Parc Ferme didn't exist, there was only one stage of the rally, and you didn't need to leave the car in the school courtyard overnight. The old version was also much easier than the modern version, as there were less ways to die. The train didn't exist, the house couldn't catch on fire, you couldn't drown in the lake, you couldn't die from swinging the axe drunk, etc. I think it balanced itself out with the modern version as it was so much easier to die in car accidents. You could sometimes die from hitting a tree at 10 kilometers an hour. So in the end, you died as often as you did in the modern version, if not more. The police were also stupidly aggressive. In the old version of the game, they just tried to ram you into the nearest tree. As the game was in early development and didn't feature car upgrades such as the racing carburetors, the police cars were much faster than the Satsuma. This resulted in the police bumping into you from behind, resulting in instant death or wrapping your car around a tree. It also didn't help that the game didn't have seatbelts yet as well, making driving even more dangerous. Also, the game lacked many things such as a car breaking down due to engine wear, getting flat tires, food spoiling, and fuses blowing out from thunderstorms. There was also no fine for dumping sewage in public areas, so you could get away with that as well. Other small features such as voice acting and character animation were also missing. Over the years, lots of voice acting got added along with new characters to interact with. This made the game feel much more alive and like it wasn't just you, Teimo, and Yoke living in the town. There was also a really annoying feature where if you got in the car when it was tilted, the game wouldn't automatically center it laterally. This would mean that until you got on a flat surface and reset your driving position, you would be driving slanted. The player's arm length is also much different in the older version. The player's arm is much longer and more visible, and it kind of depends on your field of view. If the field of view is higher, the arm is more visible, and if the field of view is lower, then the arm is less visible. Sometimes you can even see where the model of the arm cuts off. Bills also didn't have to be paid, so that's a plus. Also, check out these cool bag physics. I wish they didn't get removed. And with that, we have covered all of the major differences between the old and the new version of My Summer Car. The game has changed so much over the years, and it really has been quite amazing to watch it grow. I've thoroughly enjoyed showing you guys the major differences, and I'm so excited for what the future has to hold with the sequel of the game, My Winter Car, rumored to come out this year. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. If you want to see how I played the old version of My Summer Car, click the video you see on the screen right now.